Okay, this is day 68 for making little videos of describing a day or thought in the life of the schizophrenic Dominic. Some sane thoughts amidst the world turning things around and going crazy, and then telling people that I was crazy or insane. And I have written a book on medium.com, which I post to my threads, social media accounts, Blue Sky, and uh, Facebook pin post. Also on that pinned post for Facebook and Threads and Blue Sky is day 17 and day 45 of these videos, in which I describe why I have chosen to make these videos and why I choose to call myself schizophrenic rather than targeted individual. And so, yeah, I'm going to get into a few things today. The first thing I was going to talk about was that at the Academy Awards, and I've discussed in previous videos how Hollywood, or in general, politicians and the government and stuff, and both Republicans and Democrats are like obsessed with me, and they gave you the schizophrenia, and schizophrenics always describe that like they have delusions of grandeur, and that they're supposed to do some sort of important thing or whatever, and you know they got people following them and telling them they got to do all these important things and stuff. And I experienced that same thing or whatever, and at the same time they're doing that, they're kind of minimizing your ability to do these things. And so, the schizophrenia is like a albatross around your neck, and it minimizes, it disables you, it limits your ability to perform the thing that they want you to perform. And it's like, well, if you wanted me to perform that thing, you wouldn't have given me schizophrenia. And so, yeah. But anyways, supposedly I'm supposed to be important or whatever, but at the same time they're telling you you're important, they're belittling you and telling you you're worthless or something. Anyways, so I wanted to talk about a little bit about Adam Sandler's sweatshirt at the Oscars, and he wore that sweatshirt on the same day that I wore a sweatshirt on these videos. I hadn't worn a sweatshirt like this in over a year, but I had found this sweatshirt. And so this is a little hoodie, and Adam Sandler wore the hoodie, and he gave Timothy Chalamet a kiss. And Timothy Chalamet is this kid that I would. So when I was a kid, I used to play basketball in this league in Pasadena, and there was a little kid named Tim that was like a little kid, and I remember getting angry one time to try to defend Timmy because he got bullied by players on the other team or whatever. So I got really mad for him, and it made me upset or whatever, and I played really well, or I don't remember, something like that. And so they always have like Timothy Chalamet or whatever is like reminding me of like Tim. I don't know what it's all about. And then they call me Tim, and I don't know. So, but they do, and I gave Timothy the kiss or whatever, and so that's supposed to be Adam Sandler giving, or I'm Adam Sandler, and you know, it's just this weird thing or whatever, and I'm Tim and Adam Sandler at the same time, and it's kind of weird. But it's like that's throughout the whole Hollywood. I'm also Brendan Fraser. I'm also because I was the whale in The Whale or whatever. And actually, on the weight loss front, I'm actually 4 pounds down since I went on my little diet. Now, some of that is water weight, I know. So, but I think I've lost about 1 real pound in the past week. All right, so I think I'm gonna stick to it. I've done this diet before. Previous to, I've lost a lot of weight doing a diet like this where I eat a lot of almonds and meat or whatever, and avocado and blueberries and some vegetables. So I'm trying to eat a little healthy. I eat my carbs in the morning. I load up on the I don't load up on the carbs, but it's blueberries, avocado, vegetables, uh, some almonds, and then I'll switch into basically meatballs in the evening. I'm trying to get off meat, but it's been a hard thing for me to do. So, okay, so I was going to talk about KUSC and the music. They said that music brings us together in harmony, and I thought that was very interesting. You know, the idea that we can be harmonious people or groups of people through music, and that's always been appealing to me about music, and I thought that was interesting, and I gave $5 a month to KUSC. I recommend people donate to that, listen to that station, and donate to that station if you listen to it, because it's a publicly funded station, and I don't have a lot of money to give. I was going over, I give like monthly contributions to organizations I like and stuff, and so, yeah, so, but I'm not talking about it, but I'm trying to say give to KUSC. Okay, so uh, I didn't have a lot to talk about today out of my books, where I'm just going to verbalize talking out of my books. But I was going to read a few sections out of my books, and the first one was what I was going to read out the other day, and it's in Fingerprints of the Gods by Graham Hancock, and he talks about number codes and the procession of the equinox, including in mythologies of ancient Egypt, and the fact that writing was writing at the dawn of history, and that there is an apparent code in there's an apparent code in these allegories or mythologies that predates whatever scientific knowledge should have been known at the time, or allegedly that was known at the time. And he says, all this, however, assumes that Sellers is right. He's talking about the author that had posited this theory, is right to suppose that the numbers 360, 72, 30, and 12 did not find their way into the Osiris myth by chance, but were placed there deliberately by people who understood and had accurately measured precession. And then he says, is Sellers right? And so that's what I was going to read the other day out of that book. But yeah, so those numbers are the numbers that are found in these allegories for the procession of the equinox, and or that's allegedly talk about it. And so yeah, I just wanted to read that. Now I'm going to read out of another book. I'm sorry that I'm reading today. It's kind of, I know that can be kind of boring, but I wanted to talk about here's COVID-19 psychological operations and the war for technocracy. This author discusses that there is something called omni-war, and it's the fact that omni-war is like a war on everything, and it's a rollout. He calls it fifth generation warfare, and the whole point of fifth generation warfare is that nobody knows you're engaging in the war, so they can't form a response to the war. And people think it's like something else that's going on, but it's really fifth generation omni-war. And he calls it the most dangerous warfare generation of all time. I don't know if that's accurate, because nuclear weapons were pretty dangerous. So, anyways, I was going to read something that he says. The most fundamental principle is deception. The public must not be allowed to know that war is being waged against it. Sun Tzu famously claimed that all warfare is based on deception. The Mossad motto reads, by way of deception thou shalt do war. Much as the United States has not formally declared war since 1941, despite being almost continually at war ever since, particularly through covert operations. So World War III is undeclared, and it is waged by stealth. Deception must be carried to the extreme in World War III, for if the public gets wise to what is happening before the technocratic architecture of its oppression reaches maturity, worldwide social revolution becomes a realistic possibility. Therefore, the war must be waged preemptively to preclude revolution, and it must remain invisible to the extent that its weapons are not immediately obvious and it is concealed by a highly advanced propaganda system. He goes further. I'm going to read one more paragraph here. No war has ever been won through purely psychological means, however, and the point will inevitably come when public consciousness starts to align with the objective reality of the global class war. At that point, the war could turn physical in ways that it has not already. In that respect, it is troubling that the injections reportedly administered over 5.5 billion people turn out to have been more military operation from start to finish. Moreover, they demonstratively contain an array of undisclosed ingredients, apparently including EMF responsive, self-assembling and disassembling nanotechnologies. Coupled with the simultaneous 5G rollout, the Secure 5G and Beyond Act of 2020 was passed in the U.S. law on March 23, 2020. We must take seriously the possibility that a weapon system is being installed that would allow human bodies to be targeted via remote administration of particular frequencies. This, in the final analysis, is how a tiny cabal of technocrats could fight and win a war against the rest of humanity. Now, he goes on to say that they're interested in population control, and that's why population numbers are down, and why there's people having a hard time having kids, and that maybe the economic warfare is part of a depopulation agenda. That's all interesting, and I find it interesting, and the class war is very interesting, and I don't know where I fall on these things with David A. Hughes because I don't necessarily trust him all that much. But I realized that he put a lot of work into this, so I can't say I distrust him. I think he's talking about something that is very real, and it's just a question of if the analysis is correct, and he's done a lot of research. And so he's saying it's a global class war waged on people, and that he also says that like the idea that China is waging a war on the U.S. and U.S. on China, vice versa, is all a cover for the fact that it's a global class across the board that is waging a war on the global lower classes. And I find that interesting. And I'm not saying that everybody that's in the global upper class is participating in that kind of thing. I think there's programs that I think it's the people that control the planning of stuff. They have a way of manipulating, and it's like secret societies and stuff like that. And so, yeah. Now, who is David A. Hughes, and how does he know all this? And where did he come to? I don't know. That's something I ask about, like Joe Atwill and stuff. Like, how does he know all this about the Caesar's Messiah and stuff like that? And it's just a question I have as somebody that sits here totally pushed aside and said like you're schizophrenic and all this, and so if you push me aside, then I'm gonna question everything. And they say question everything and whatever, but then the questions can get used against and coming to conclusions about things. So yeah, so yeah, global class war. I'm not saying that all upper classes are in a war against lower classes. I think a lot of people are just living their lives, you know, and it's not like everybody's at war with each other. So I don't, when he says stuff like this, I always wonder like, is is this like trying? Is he trying to like egg on a fight or whatever? And I do know that there is a secret war going on against people, but it's a little bit more like a cultural thing where they're building some sort of weird abusive culture. And so yeah, I'm not saying I'm for it or whatever, but I'm not necessarily ready to chop off heads. And so he says global revolution, and I don't know if I'm there yet, but all right, I gotta stop here because it's been 15 minutes. Thank you. Goodbye.